YouTube, what's the deal? It's in the Galactic Brew. I wanted to do a video, an MMA video to be exact, and I wanted to do a video regarding something that has become very, I guess, controversial in the world of mixed martial arts, particularly the UFC. And it's concerning the Jon Jones, Chael Sonnen, Tough Season 17. And other than that, it's really having to do with Chael Sonnen's opportunity at the light heavyweight championship. Now, I've been reading up on this story ever since it broke out yesterday, and a lot of competitors in the light heavyweight division, Dan Henderson most notably, are pissed off because Chael Sonnen gets an automatic title shot, and he hasn't even won one fight yet. Now, I'm going to be very neutral and very fair with my thoughts on this situation as I can. So, any of you Chael Sonnen doubters and stuff, okay, before you go on your verbal period, okay, before you're ready to send Chael Sonnen a whole bunch of heat mail, as I like to call it, or completely diss him on his Twitter account, hear me out and just listen, okay? Just listen. Alright, so let's look at this from the first side of the story. Okay, Jon Jones. Now, technically, Jon Jones has almost literally cleaned out his whole division. Okay? He's beaten the best in the division. From Rampage to Lyoto Machida to Vitor Belfort to Rashad Evans and Shogun, who he beat to win the championship in the first place. Okay, so Jon Jones has literally cleaned out his whole division, right? Okay, now you got a guy like Chael who just moved up to the light heavyweight division. Now, previously, he was supposed to actually have his first fight coming up in about 2 months against Forrest Griffin. Now, Jon Jones, on the other hand, he was supposed to have, I think, his first title fight since, what was that? The Machida fight, I believe, against Dan Henderson, because Dan Henderson rightfully earned a shot at the championship by beating Shogun last year. Okay, that is fair. But here is where the corkscrew starts twisting in this situation. Dan Henderson gets busted up in training, and we go on this whole saga about Jon Jones having a fight. He was supposed to, Chael had actually stepped up to fight Jones in a non-title contest, just so they could save the UFC 152 pay-per-view. Then it was supposed to be Lyoto Machida. Lyoto Machida turned down the fight, quote unquote, because he didn't have enough time to train. and he wanted to be well prepared. That's understandable. Then we had, I forget who the other 2 or 3 opponents were that were going to step up to fight Jon Jones. But anyway, to make a long story short, Vitor Belfort ends up getting the opportunity to fight Jones for the championship. And it was a very interesting fight because Vitor almost pulled off the upset. He caught Jon Jones in an armbar. He could have broke his arm, but Jon Jones showed the guts and the resiliency to withstand that, and he came back and pummeled Vitor in the 2nd round. And then he submitted him. So another impressive victory by Jon Jones, right? Okay. Now, here's the other side. Jon Jones has a slight injury to his shoulder. Okay, so I'm guessing he's not going to be able to fight the rest of this year. I'm not guessing. That is the situation. He's not going to be able to fight for the rest of this year. He won't be able to fight until next year, 2013. Alright, so Dan Henderson, going back to him, still believes that when he comes back off an injury, that he's a legitimate #1 contender, and is still going to get a crack at the light heavyweight title. Now, my thing is, if Dan Henderson is not back, or is not healed, I should say, by the time 2013 comes around, then he's no longer the #1 contender. Now here's where I start to put all of the pieces of the puzzle together, as the old cliche goes. So if Dan Henderson is not healed by the time 2013 comes around, then he is no longer considered the #1 contender. That's the rule, and that's the way it is. Now, Chael, on the other hand, still has not had a fight. I'm talking about a fight to determine whether he really earns that title shot or not in the division. Now, I just said Jon Jones has pretty much beaten all there is to beat in the light heavyweight division. Dana White is not going to be that stupid to put one of these up-and-comers, I don't care how bad they may seem, and I meant that in a good way, I don't care how badass they may seem, or I don't care, you know, how dangerous to Jon Jones that fans might think they seem. Dana White, as a businessman, as a promoter, is not going to allow that to happen. And I even hear people talking about Alexander Gustafsson getting a shot at Jones if he beats Shogun. I've been hearing Glover Teixeira's name. I heard a couple other people's names, but listen, y'all. The bottom line is the person who's going to be the next challenger for Jon Jones' championship belt is going to be somebody that can possibly beat him. Okay? And taking nothing away from Glover, taking nothing away from Alexander, but these guys are not ready yet. They're not proven. They have not beaten top 5 competition in the division. And I know this may piss some people off, but I'm just telling you my opinion. So you can't get mad at me for my opinion. And if you do, I really don't care anyway. But going on, you have to look at it like this. Alexander Gustafsson, Glover Teixeira, They have to beat some of the top 5 or at least top 10 fighters in the division. Let's look at who Alexander Gustafsson has beaten. Okay, he's beaten Cyril Diabate, solid. Vladimir Matyushenko. Who is it? Thiago Silva. Let's see. I forget. I forget. It was a couple of non-top 10 a lot of non-top 10 competition that Alexander Gustafsson has beaten. I mean, seriously, let's see what he does against Shogun, a former UFC light heavyweight champion, a top 10 light heavyweight on the planet. Let's see how Gustafsson does against him. Now that fight there will show and prove if he's really worthy of being a challenger for Jon Jones' championship. Same thing with Glover Teixeira. He's only had 2 fights in the UFC. I don't care about what he's done outside of the UFC. Okay? He may have clobbered every single opponent he's had outside of the UFC. But the UFC is where it's at. This is where the best come to fight. Okay? So, let's see how Glover Teixeira does against Rampage. Because as we've known recently, that after the fight with Fabio Maldonado, he called out Rampage. Rampage is accepted. Let's sign that fight, and let's see how Teixeira does against Rampage. Now, if Gustafsson beats Shogun convincingly, and if Teixeira beats Quentin convincingly, then everybody can start making a little noise about them challenging for Jones Championship. But I mean, come on. Just because, you know, they've looked impressive against people technically that they were supposed to beat. I'm talking about Teixeira and Gustafsson. Everybody's calling for him to get a title shot. Come on now. No. 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 That's just like saying that's just like saying you know, I don't know. I guess I don't even really know how to put it. To tell you the truth, I don't even know what to compare that to. That's just like saying Jason Hayward is ready to go into the Hall of Fame just because he's hit numerous home runs against teams that the Braves were supposed to beat. You know what I'm saying? Or that's just like saying, you know, Andrew Luck or, you know, Russell Wilson or Robert Griffin are ready to go to the Pro Bowl just because they've had successful games, you know, against certain teams. No. You know, you have to beat the guys that have already been there, done that, and that are proven. That's what determines if you're really ready to take the next step for a title in competition. And Alexander Gustafsson and Glover Teixeira are not ready. So, going back to my point, and this is my point altogether, since the up-and-comers in the light heavyweight division are not ready, who else is legitimate in the light heavyweight division that can really give Jon Jones a test? And unfortunately, y'all, it's Chael. It's Chael. Chael is the only one. Now I know, like I said, he hasn't had a fight yet in the light heavyweight division. I understand that, and I agree with y'all on that, okay? And I understand that, you know, This is kind of shafting, somebody like Dan Henderson, who is deserving of that title shot and actually beat somebody to get it. I understand that. But listen, y'all, the bottom line is Dan Henderson is still out with an injury. He's still injured. It would be a different story if he was healed and if he was ready to compete, like right now, like here in the month of October. But he's not. Okay? He's not. And I understand that this is a real ignoramus move by Dana White. It is. Because there's a philosophy that I have behind Dana White and the decisions he makes. And that is that Dana White is an ignoramus, but a smart ignoramus. But in this instance, he's an ignoramus. And I'm a fan of Chael. Y'all know that. Anybody on YouTube knows that I'm a Chael Sonnen fan. All the MMA YouTube video makers. But, I think this came a little bit too soon. But my point is, who's left? Who is really left? Seriously, y'all want to put Alexander Gustafsson, a 24-year-old kid, just like John Jones is, and have him get clobbered? You want to put somebody in there like Glover Teixeira, who's only had 2 fights? No matter how dangerous y'all think he is, John Jones would tear that man up. Okay? Seriously. Although, anything could happen in MMA, I understand that, but come on, like right now, I don't think so. I just don't think so. So, Chael Sonnen is really the only best option left outside of Dan Henderson. And I know a lot of y'all are, picking him to lose. And I know a lot of y'all want him to lose. And I can understand why half of that is because y'all don't like the guy. That's y'all opinion. But I'm going to tell you this, though. At least Chael is one of these few guys that is not going to back down from John Jones. He's going to get in John Jones' face, and he'll go toe-to-toe with Jones, and then he will execute his game plan and take the fight where he knows he has the best chance of winning, and that's on the ground. He's not going to be stupid like some other people have and stand up with John Jones and have to deal with that reach and those long limbs of his. He's not going to do that. So keep that in mind while y'all are over here getting all emotional and saying all this stuff about Chael. Just think about that. But anyway, I'm not going to keep y'all too long because I've already kind of gone over a little bit. So, whether we like it or not, y'all, Chael is the next in line for the title shot. Should be an interesting season of The Ultimate Fighter. And you just have to deal with it. So, that's pretty much it. Alright, I'm out. 2 fingers.